Sirens howled through the glass atrium, as every screen lit with the headline that hacked our silence, and Alex Mercer said, "Who authorized this leak?" Maria Kent said, "It's everywhere, Alex. There's no off switch." Reporters swarmed the lobby while security froze, and Evan Brooks said, "Servers are throttling. Dashboards spiking." Alex steadied his breath as board alerts stacked like falling knives. Dana Cole said, "We need to deny and delay before legal lands." Victor Hale said, "Your empire is built on borrowed truth." Alex Mercer said, "If this is a war, I choose the field." The board demanded answers before the elevators cooled, and Alex Mercer said, "You want facts, not panic." Dana Cole said, "We can quarantine the narrative if we act fast." Maria Kent said, "They're drafting an emergency session with outside counsel." Victor Hale said, "Markets reward clarity and punish denial." Evan Brooks said, "Logs show an inside credential, not brute force." Alex Mercer said, "Then someone at our table is feeding the fire." Silence thinned the room until even the AC sounded like a verdict. Whispers traveled faster than memos, and Maria Kent said, "If the leak is internal, trust collapses on contact." Alex Mercer said, "Lock access to privileged files." Evan Brooks said, "I can trace session handoffs if I get clearance." Dana Cole said, "Limit the circle or we feed rumors." Tasha Reed said, "People want the truth, not theater." Alex Mercer said, "They'll get truth when we have proof." The clock heaved forward like a slow hammer against glass. In the glass corridor overlooking the city, Robert Langley said, "Ambition doesn't fail, it collects interest." Alex Mercer said, "I didn't build this to be stolen by cowards." Robert Langley said, "Your blind side is loyalty to ghosts." Dana Cole said, "Legal will try exposure if we cooperate." Alex Mercer said, "Cooperation looks like guilt." Robert Langley said, "So does silence." Thorn pressed its palm to the skyline, and the floor seemed to tilt. In the crisis room, screens mapped the company's arteries, and Nolan Pierce said, "Audit trails branch at 2:17 a.m. Evan Brooks said, "Someone piggybacked a dormant admin key." Maria Kent said, "That key was sealed under Dana's protocols." Dana Cole said, "Then someone forged a twin." Alex Mercer said, "We freeze every shadow process now." Victor Hale said, "Freeze too hard and markets shatter." The room exhaled dread like a static charge. Behind smoked glass, Victor Hale said, "Pressure builds cracks in every empire." Dana Cole said, "Your strategy is to squeeze Alex until he breaks." Victor said, "I don't need to break him, just let him implode." Maria Kent whispered, "He's losing board confidence by the hour." Evan Brooks said, "This isn't sabotage from the outside. It's someone we know." Alex Mercer said, "If they want a war, we'll sharpen the knives." The storm rattled the panes, thunder rolling like a gavel no one asked for. The cameras flickered as Alex Mercer stood before the press, and Alex said, "Our company has been tested before, and we will endure again." A reporter shouted, "Are you denying insider leaks?" Dana Cole whispered, "Control the framing." Maria Kent said, "Deflect, don't confess." Victor Hale, watching from afar, said, "Every word adds weight to his fall." Alex said, "We lead not by silence, but by resolve." The flashbulbs burst like gunfire, each image another verdict waiting to be printed. In the dim strategy suite, Maria Kent said, "The old playbooks want work, the rival is rewriting the rules." Alex Mercer said, "Then we'll write faster." Evan Brooks said, "The leak trails to an ID we can't burn without raising alarms." Dana Cole said, "Legal exposure doubles if we act rashly." Robert Langley, cane resting on the table, said, "You're still fighting ghosts instead of watching your shadow." Alex Mercer said, "If betrayal's in my shadow, I'll drag it into the light." The silence thickened, smoke from old cigars lingering like memory. A voice on speaker crackled. The shadow investor said, "Your survival depends on playing both sides." Alex Mercer said, "Who are you really, and what do you want?" The voice replied, "I want control, not credit." Dana Cole said, you can't trust a ghost. Maria Kent said, every contract ties another chain. Evan Brooks muttered, their access bypasses all firewalls. Alex Mercer said, then this phantom is already inside our walls. The investor's laugh was hollow, echoing like a deal signed in blood. In the glass atrium, Victor Hale said he doesn't even see who's holding the knife. Dana Cole whispered, you're circling like a vulture. Victor said, I don't circle. I strike when silence makes the loudest sound. Maria Kent said, if Alex falls, the board fractures. Alex Mercer, unaware above in the office, said, every second matters now. Evan Brooks said, systems log false trails. Someone's planting decoys. Victor said, by the time he knows, the floor beneath him will already be gone. The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm detonating inside the company's veins. Alex Mercer said, the deal with Ironcrest was supposed to stabilize us. Maria Kent said, Ironcrest just terminated the contract. They claimed a breach on undisclosed liabilities. Dana Cole said, that liability was buried years ago. Someone unearthed it now to collapse our negotiating stance. Evan Brooks said, I traced the packet leak. They sabotaged the servers during the signing window. Alex Mercer said, so a phantom killed our lifeline in broad daylight. Robert Langley said, it's never daylight when the dagger is pulled. It's always shadow. The room shook with the vibration of distant thunder, the deal collapsing like glass under a hammer. On the operations floor, whispers outpaced the hum of servers. Tasha Reed said, employees are already speculating Alex knew and concealed liabilities. Maria Kent said, rumor is poison and someone is feeding it to the press. Alex Mercer said, shut down every internal forum and monitor chat logs. This doesn't spread unchecked. Evan Brooks said, that level of monitoring triggers alerts and compliance. It'll look like censorship. Dana Cole said, if we don't act, it looks like guilt anyway. Victor Hale, in a news clip flickering across a monitor, said, transparency defines trust, and Mercer has none left. The floor went silent as eyes turned toward Alex, some with pity, most with suspicion. The underdog no one noticed finally stepped into light. Liam Carter said, I found something in the audit logs that doesn't add up. Alex Mercer said, you're an analyst, not security. Why are you digging here? Liam said, because no one else wanted to look where it hurt. Maria Kent said, show us. Liam Carter said, the breach used dual credentials, one expired, one active, synced to a ghost process. Evan Brooks said, that's not external. It's forged by someone with core access. Dana Cole whispered, a twin key buried in legal archives. Alex Mercer said, then betrayal wears a familiar face, one we've seen every day. The truth cut colder than the rain hammering glass. The tension finally snapped. Alex Mercer said, you think you can corner me with ghosts and forged keys. Dana Cole said, if you want survival, play smarter, not harder. Maria Kent said, the more you lash out, the more guilty you appear. Evan Brooks slammed a file down and said, these trails are too perfect. They're designed to implicate us. Robert Langley said, when the path is too straight, it's bait leading to a trap. Tasha Reed said, and yet you keep walking right into it. Alex Mercer said, if I stop, I'm finished. If I move, I'm damned. So I'll run right through the fire. The words echoed like steel snapping under unbearable strain. Deep in the server vault, silence pressed like a tomb. Evan Brooks said, the spy is inside these systems, leaving trails to frame us. Maria Kent said, every trail leads back to Alex's account. It looks like he's orchestrating his own fall. Alex Mercer said, I never touched those files. Dan Cole said, intent doesn't matter if evidence says otherwise. Liam Carter said, the log doesn't show edits. It shows clones. Tasha Reed said, then someone is rewriting history in real time. Victor Hale's voice on a speaker crackled, history is written by survivors, Mercer, and you're running out of breath. Alex's silence was heavier than thunder, heavier than truth. The corridor lights dimmed as if the building itself knew the weight of the moment. Robert Langley said, "I've seen men like you burn their empires with their own hands." Alex Mercer said, "I built this empire with steel, not ash." Robert Langley said, "Ambition's fire doesn't discriminate, Alex. It burns builder and betrayer alike." Maria Kent said, "If we don't stabilize soon, shareholder revolt is inevitable." Dana Cole said, "The lawsuits already line up outside our doors." Evan Brooks said, "I tracked the breach deeper. It mirrors insider access patterns." Alex Mercer said, "Then betrayal is no longer speculation. It's a living shadow in this room." Robert Langley tapped his cane, eyes narrowing. "Shadows are only cast by light," he muttered. Tasha Reed's voice cut through the tension, and she said, "You keep demanding loyalty when you've given none in return." Alex Mercer said, "I've given blood to keep this company alive." Tasha Reed said, "Blood doesn't balance lies." Maria Kent said, "Tasha, this isn't the time for division." Tasha Reed said, "Division already exists, you just ignore it." Dana Cole said, "She speaks for the staff, Alex, and they're watching every move." Evan Brooks said, "Logs show sabotage escalated in real time during last night's rally." Alex Mercer said, "Then someone is staging chaos as theater, and we're their audience." Tasha Reed's eyes glinted with anger. "Maybe you're the villain of this story," she said. Silence pressed heavier than thunder. Victor Hale's strike landed like a knife, and Victor said, "He preaches control, yet he bleeds chaos." On live broadcast, his rival address drew millions of eyes. Alex Mercer said, "He's turning public trust into his weapon." Maria Kent said, "Every headline now crowns Victor as the savior." Dana Cole said, "Our legal silence looks like admission of guilt." Evan Brooks said, "The sabotage scripts align with Victor's firm signature." Alex Mercer said, "He's orchestrating collapse while smiling on camera." Robert Langley muttered, "Pride blinds faster than any enemy." Victor Hale's words thundered from the broadcast, "Trust doesn't vanish, it migrates to stronger hands." Every employee in the atrium paused, torn between two leaders. The loyal confidant wavered, and Maria Kent said, "Alex, I've defended you against every storm, but I need truth now." Alex Mercer said, "You think I orchestrated this collapse?" Maria Kent said, "People believe what silence allows." Dana Cole said, "The board wants someone to sacrifice." Evan Brooks said, "We'll never find the traitor if we keep turning on each other." Maria Kent said, "Sometimes allies demand blood to calm the mob." Alex Mercer slammed the table. "If you doubt me now, then maybe you were never my ally." The weight of her hesitation tore deeper than the storm. Maria's silence spoke like a verdict before words could form. The betrayer's mask began to slip, and Nolan Pierce said quietly, "Not every ally wants the same victory." Alex Mercer said, "Speak plainly, Nolan." Nolan Pierce smiled faintly. "Sometimes loyalty pays less than betrayal." Evan Brooks said, "This doesn't sound like speculation, it sounds like confession." Dana Cole said, "Be careful what you accuse. Words become weapons." Maria Kent said, "We don't need more shadows, we need light." Alex Mercer leaned forward, voice trembling, "If you've crossed me, say it now." Nolan's smirk widened. "Truth isn't a dagger. It's the moment you realize who's already holding it." The storm outside cracked lightning like applause. The storm outside raged like a reflection of the war inside the company's walls. Papers littered the boardroom table, contracts shredded, reputations hanging like loose wires. Alex Mercer said, "These trails were manufactured, not discovered." Maria Kent leaned forward, her voice steady but cold. The timestamps align with a digital handoff that couldn't have happened by accident. Evan Brooks said, "I built safeguards against forgery, but someone bypassed them cleanly." Dana Cole adjusted her jacket and said, "The board will see intent no matter what proof we bring." Robert Langley tapped his cane, voice bitter, "Every betrayal leaves fingerprints in places no lawyer can scrub." Alex said, "Then we find the fingerprints before they crown me guilty." The silence after felt like a grave closing. In the investor's chamber, shadows swallowed every edge of light. The phone call hummed with static before a voice emerged. The shadow investor said, "You still haven't asked the right question, Alex." Alex Mercer said, "You're orchestrating this downfall. Why?" The voice replied, "Because power doesn't respect heirs, only hunters." Maria Kent whispered, "He has leverage deeper than markets." Dana Cole said, "He speaks as if he already owns the board's loyalty." Alex said, "Not while I'm still standing." The voice chuckled, standing as a temporary posture. Evan Brooks said, "His access ran deeper than our firewalls. He's been here longer than we knew." Alex Mercer's chest rose with fury, his shadow lengthening like a figure about to fall into fire. The confidant's loyalty bent beneath unbearable weight. Maria Kent said, "I've carried your wars, Alex, but the cost is blood on every floor." Alex Mercer said, "You've always believed in this company more than anyone." Maria said, "Belief collapses when truth is poisoned." Evan Brooks interjected, "If she breaks, the systems we built collapse too." Dana Cole's eyes narrowed. "Sometimes loyalty is the cruelest weakness." Robert Langley said, "Foils fall hardest because they believe first." Maria Kent's voice cracked as she whispered, "I can't be your shield anymore." Alex Mercer slammed his fist and said, "Then you become my enemy." The fracture between them tore deeper than any rival could plan. The revelation detonated like shrapnel in silence. A single folder slid across the table, and Victor Hale's smirk filled every screen in the room. Victor Hale said, "While you searched for shadows, your betrayal wore your confidant's smile." Alex Mercer said, "No. Maria, tell me this isn't true." Maria Kent said, "I didn't betray you, Alex. I tried to save us before the fire consumed everything." Victor laughed. "The knife never comes from strangers, it comes from the hand you trusted most." Dana Cole whispered, "The board will believe the orchestrator, not the victim." Evan Brooks said, "Every log points to Mariah's credentials." Alex Mercer's voice broke. Then the Empire was killed by its heartbeat. The weight of betrayal tore the room apart. Maria Kent said, "I never sold us out, but the shadows twisted my hand." Alex Mercer said, "Intent doesn't matter when perception has already executed us." Victor Hale's voice oozed, "Perception is the only currency." Dana Cole said, "With this, the board will bury you alive." Evan Brooks whispered, "The systems prove sabotage, but no one will believe the truth in time." Robert Langley said, "You finally see that the crown never belonged to you, Alex." Alex Mercer said, "If I fall, I'll take the kingdom with me." The storm roared, glass trembling as though the building itself recoiled from the betrayal unveiled. The trading floor opened under gray stormlight, and the world seemed to tilt as every monitor screamed red. Alex Mercer said, "They're accelerating the takeover before we even catch our breath." Maria Kent said, "Stocks are plunging 20% in the first hour." Dana Cole said, "This collapse is irreversible without intervention." Evan Brooks said, "The feed shows ghost transactions, someone simulating panic." Victor Hale appeared on a broadcast smirking and said, "The Empire dies when its king is weakest." Alex Mercer said, "Then let them come, because I'll burn this floor before I hand it over." His words rang like steel scraping stone, brittle yet unyielding. In the boardroom, thunder silenced conversation until Robert Langley broke it, saying, "This is where ambition always dies, between greed and betrayal." Alex Mercer said, "Not today, not while I breathe." Maria Kent said, "The board is ready to vote your removal." Dana Cole said, "The bylaws grant emergency authority in crisis." Evan Brooks said, "If we expose her as the betrayer, the vote fractures." Dana Cole smiled faintly and said, "Truth isn't about evidence, it's about who controls the story." Robert Langley said, "Heed her words, truth dies faster than men." Alex Mercer slammed his palm on the table, sending a crack through glass like a lightning strike. The broadcast cracked open, revealing the company's darkest wound. A journalist said, "Documents show Mercer knew of falsified ledgers 2 years ago." Alex Mercer said, "Those numbers were buried without my hand." Maria Kent said, "This leak is deliberate, timed for maximum collapse." Dana Cole said, "Perception is all that matters, and perception convicts." Victor Hale said, "You see, Mercer, secrets always bleed in the open." Evan Brooks shouted, "These files were forged, they don't match our encryption history." Alex Mercer said, "Then the world will know I'm guilty of fighting phantoms, not fraud." His voice cracked with fury and despair, a man watching his foundation fracture. The board splintered as betrayal pulled threads apart. Maria Kent said, "I stood by you, Alex, but your silence condemned us all." Alex Mercer said, "Silence was survival, until you doubted me." Evan Brooks said, "We can redirect the feeds, restore proof." Dana Cole said, "Proof is irrelevant, the board is already lost." Robert Langley said, "Every empire crumbles not from enemies but from within." Victor Hale said, "You've lost the floor, Mercer. Now, bow out." Alex Mercer said, "If I fall, I take the floor with me." The chamber buzzed with a rising storm of fear and defiance. The storm reached its crescendo as voices collided. Alex Mercer said, "I won't die crawling, I'll die fighting." Dana Cole said, "Then fight, but know you fight alone." Maria Kent said, "The board is split, but truth still breathes in fragments." Evan Brooks said, "If we release the true system logs, the tide shifts." Victor Hale sneered, "Release them and watch the market eat you alive." Robert Langley said, "Every choice is poison, but one may save your soul." Alex Mercer raised his hand and said, "Then I choose to burn before I'm buried." Lightning tore the skyline, echoing his final defiance. The boardroom lay fractured in silence after the storm of shouting, glass still trembling from the echoes of thunder and rage. Alex Mercer said, "I built this empire from blood and silence, and I will not let it die in whispers." His voice was rough, every syllable carrying years of ambition cracking under weight. Maria Kent said, "The walls are already bleeding with betrayal, Alex. The foundations tremble with every headline, and your grip slips even when your hands clench." Dana Cole said, "You can hold on to ashes if you want, but the board will hold me instead." Evan Brooks said, "If we still have proof, if the evidence survives, the truth can burn brighter than their lies." Robert Langley said, "Truth is a fire, Alex, but it burns the holder first, and the board has no patience for martyrs anymore." Victor Hale, cold and smirking through the screen, said, "You are the last man standing on a battlefield already claimed by vultures." The storm outside bellowed as if the sky itself demanded judgment. In the aftermath, Maria Kent stepped closer, her voice trembling but hard as steel, and she said, "You can still walk away, Alex, before this consumes you completely." Alex Mercer said, "Walk away, and let wolves eat what I bled to build." Dana Cole said, "History forgets builders, it remembers conquerors." Evan Brooks said, "If you surrender, Dana wins. If you fight, you might still hold fragments." Robert Langley said, "Fragments cut deeper than crowns. Take what dignity you have left." Alex Mercer said, "Dignity is a word spoken by the defeated." Victor Hale's voice echoed, "Defeat is not a word, it is a door closing behind you forever." The storm rattled the glass so hard, it seemed the room might collapse in tandem with Alex's empire. Downstairs in the glass atrium, the underdog Jordan Pike said, "I was underestimated, but I found the patterns they all ignored." Alex Mercer said, "You speak as if you can still turn tides with numbers." Jordan Pike said, "Numbers are not just figures, they are fingerprints, trails of betrayal etched in code." Evan Brooks said, "He's right, Alex. The sabotage bears the CFO's signature." Maria Kent said, "If the evidence reaches the press, Dana's throne dissolves." Dana Cole said, "Evidence without allies is only noise." Alex Mercer said, "Then let's make noise that shakes the city." Robert Langley said, "Noise fades quickly. History demands silence." The storm thundered like drums, answering the call of rebellion rising in the last hour. In the upper chamber, Victor Hale said, "Let them fight with ashes, I already own the bones." Alex Mercer said, You own nothing while I still stand. Dana Cole said, he's finished, Victor. The crown is ours. Maria Kent said, every betrayal poisons itself. Dana, your crown drips venom. Evan Brooks said, the proof is streaming now. The world sees the forged accounts. Victor Hale snarled, what have you done? Jordan Pike said, I released the truth. Alex Mercer said, and truth is the only empire worth holding. The storm outside broke into shards of lightning that bathed the chamber like judgment. As the storm thinned into silence, Alex Mercer stood alone in the ruins of power, and he said, I fought for an empire and lost myself inside it. Maria Kent said, you lost power, not your soul. Dana Cole, retreating, said, souls do not pay dividends. Evan Brooks said, but truth outlives profit. Jordan Pike said, underdogs rise when giants fall, and this is our beginning. Robert Langley said, every throne carries bones beneath it. Don't forget that. Alex Mercer whispered, I am not the empire, but I am its ghost. Lightning faded, leaving silence, heavy enough to feel like stone pressing the chest.